1001 movies you must see before you die. I break each one down for you in 5 minutes. Number 3, The Birth of a Nation. Birth of a Nation is a 3-hour 1915 epic directed by D.W. Griffith. Adapted from the novel and play The Klansman by Thomas Dixon Jr., the film originally aired in 2 parts separated by an intermission. Although a commercial success, the film was largely criticised for its outlandishly racist portrayal of African Americans and is charged with being the inspiration behind the reformation of the Ku Klux Klan. D.W. Griffiths claimed he had no intention of stirring up racial hatred and that the views held are Dixon Jr.'s and not his own. It was still the highest grossing film at the time until it was overtaken by Gone with the Wind. It achieved so many advancements in filmmaking technique, including close-ups, outdoor background shooting, iris shots, night filming, dissolves, fade-outs, and expertly crafted battle scenes. There were protests, riots and murders which took place in the wake of this film, and it's extremely controversial even to this day, revered and criticised by academics worldwide. The story is split into 2 very distinct parts, pre-Civil War and post-Civil War. In part 1, we are introduced to all the major players in both the North and the South. In the North, the Stoneman family, headed up by abolitionist Austin Stoneman. In the South, the Cameron family, headed up by Dr. Cameron. A mutual friendship exists between the 2 families, but all that is about to change when the children enlist in their respective armies for the upcoming war. True to history, the Southerners lose the war and ends with Lincoln's assassination. Part 2 picks up with the Northerners hell-bent on punishing the Southerners. Austin Stoneman and his protege, Silas Lynch, lead the charge. Despite the inevitable love story across the Great Divide, what follows is what can only be described as a propaganda film, hell-bent on instilling fear about the dangers of giving the blacks too much power and freedom. Naturally, the only ones to stop their raping, thieving and murdering ways are the Ku Klux Klan, and I think you can pretty much guess where the film goes from there. Okay, so I've been looking forward to reviewing this one. It's insanely racist, for one thing. It's also technically magnificent, on the other hand. So how are we supposed to balance the blatant racism with its narrative and cinematic brilliance? Well, you know, the answer is we don't have to. It is both blatantly racist and a technical cinematic masterpiece in its own right. The trouble comes when we try to use like one of those points of view to nullify the other. Like, it cannot exist as a wonderful film because it's so racist, or it cannot be so racist because it's such a wonderful film. Well, the truth of the matter is, it was picked up by the KKK afterwards. It was responsible for the resurgence of the KKK. Whether D.W. Griffiths intended that to be the case or not, we never know. I should suspect that he definitely knew what he was doing, and he definitely held those beliefs, because you do not put in the film what you put in the film unless you are insanely racist. Here are some examples. No, the biggest example. Most of the black people presented in this film are played by white men. The main black character, who is the maid for the Cameron family, is a big fat white man done up to look like a black maid. It is terrible. It is like, this is before Al Jolson. This is unreal. This gave Al Jolson, you know, the license to go and off and do the jazz singer. It's horrible to see. I can only imagine. It's deeply, deeply offensive. If I was a black person, I would be incredibly offended. It's difficult as a white man reviewing this film because I don't want to be insensitive in how I talk about things, but I think it's fair to say that it is deeply unsettling and deeply insulting to most people. All this being said, the storytelling is gripping. It's a masterpiece, and God only knows what audiences must have thought when they first sat down to watch this. Coming off the back of A Trip to the Moon and A Great Train Robbery, these short films, yes, films were getting longer, but 3 hours split with an interval, showing insanely good battle scenes and crafting a narrative with things like close-ups, getting up close to actors' faces and actually seeing expressions which tells the story. That's wonderful. Ralph Flores as Austin Stoneman is incredible. He's so over the top, it's wonderful. Lillian Gish is beautiful as Elsie Stoneman. She's like the original on-screen beauty. And Henry B. Walthall, even though he plays the leader of the Ku Klux Klan, his performance is entirely believable. You believe he could be that man. There's great scenes like falling off a cliff. There's these fade outs, there's these night shots. It's all beautiful. It should be studied in film school, but thank God we have learned from this, because I cannot see a film like this getting made nowadays. Technically brilliant, insanely racist. Next time on 1001 in 5, Les Vampires.